If you're interested in learning about the plans and realities of creating a multifaceted civil rights campaign aimed at an entire state, then my Freedom Summer Black History Short is for you. Hi, and thank you for tuning in to Noir Histoire. I'm Natasha, and in this episode, I'll be sharing what I've learned about 1964's Freedom Summer, also known as the Mississippi Summer Project. It took place from June 1964 to August 1964, and it's notable for being a multifaceted statewide civil rights campaign. The location, Mississippi, United States. Denying Black citizens the right to vote helped to reinforce segregation by limiting their recourse for voting against officials and laws intended to oppress. The problem was widespread throughout the South as local governments fought to continue the suppression of Black people. Several campaigns would be launched in Alabama, with key historic demonstrations taking place in Birmingham, Montgomery, and Selma, but a different approach was required for addressing Mississippi's pervasive and especially violent oppression. In Mississippi, many individuals who attempted to register or managed to vote faced retaliation. The Mississippi State Legislature created the Sovereignty Commission in response to the ruling in Brown v. Board of Education. Black citizens who even so much as attempted to register might have their names turned over to the Sovereignty Commission by voter registrars. Sharecroppers such as Fannie Lou Hamer, who farmed rented land, found themselves evicted by landowners, losing both their shelter and source of employment. School teachers were reported to superintendents of education, who would then pressure them to cease their voting activities. Under the leadership of Bob Moses, SNCC had begun a voter registration drive in Mississippi in 1961. The state was selected as the next site in the battle for civil rights because it had the country's lowest percentage of registered Black voters, with only a paltry 7% of eligible Black voters registered to vote. A coalition of civil rights organizations joined forces as the Council of Federated Organizations, or COFO, to organize a series of local campaigns throughout Mississippi during the summer of 1964. Beginning in 1963, efforts were made to recruit college students from the North to travel to and spend the summer working on campaigns in Mississippi. The assembled group of volunteers primarily consisted of white college students from middle to upper class backgrounds, but volunteers also included clergy members, lawyers, and medical professionals. Organizers hoped that bringing these volunteers to the South would not only improve voter registration, but also increase awareness and bring attention to the conditions in Mississippi. The plan called for volunteers to be distributed across field offices spread throughout the state. From there, volunteers would work to get eligible Black voters registered while also holding literacy and civics classes at freedom schools. When word of the campaign reached Southern officials, they regarded the planned arrival of volunteers as an invasion of sorts. Sensing a threat to the status quo, they denounced the campaign and made an effort to thwart its success. The number of state troopers was nearly doubled, and local law enforcement saw an increase in manpower as well as weapons. New legislation was passed in an attempt to outlaw demonstrations. Private citizens violently attacked both volunteers and locals who were involved in any civil rights activities. By the end of the summer, there would be an estimated 29 to 35 shootings, 50 bombings, 60 to 80 assaults, and 400 to 1,000 arrests. There were also at least 6 murders, which included the murder of 3 civil rights workers in Neshoba County. The trio consisted of a Black local man, James Chaney, and 2 white volunteers from New York, Michael Schwerner and Andrew Goodman. The men visited the area to investigate a church burning and were detained by police for an alleged traffic violation. They were last seen alive at the time of their release from jail, and their bodies were recovered 6 weeks later. The violent response to Freedom Summer contributed to the push for the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Voting Rights Act of 1965. But it also exposed divisions within the civil rights movement and would be one of the last large-scale interracial campaigns of the movement. The murder of the civil rights workers garnered a lot of attention because 2 of the men were white, while the deaths of Black activists had received little attention from the media or federal government. There was a feeling within the campaign that the white volunteers acted as though they were automatically entitled to lead. They were also seen as patronizing the local Black activists and participants, though they had been active before the volunteers' arrival. Romantic relationships, some of which crossed racial groups, also added drama, and women found both the Black and white male participants to be sexist. Overall, Freedom Summer was not a resounding success, as the campaign was met with strong resistance that prevented the large increase in voters that was hoped for. but it did garner a great deal of media attention and increased membership in the Mississippi Freedom Party, the MFDP, which challenged racial discrimination at political conventions. Freedom schools helped to supplement the inadequate resources in education provided at the segregated schools set aside for Black students. Show notes and sources are available on the Noir Histoire website via the link in the episode description. I know some of you that tune in have kids, and I'm working on creating downloadables and infographics for these episodes to make them easier to teach and discuss. Keep an eye on the website because that's going to be coming soon. Right now, I'm planning to release these Black History shorts every Tuesday. So if you enjoyed this episode and want more, subscribe to the channel, click the notification bell, and check out my Black History shorts playlist.